Okay, let's get started. The topic today is you can't scale without processes. Now, I'd like to assume that you already understand this key business concept, the importance and value of having processes in your firm, in your business. But that said, I think it bears repeating. So I'm going to speak briefly on the why you can't scale without processes. However, my focus today is going to be on the how to create a process-dependent law firm so you can have a company that really serves you, that gives you more of what you want, more work-life balance, more money, one that you can scale without basically losing your life to it. You did not start a business to be stressed and overwhelmed. So how many of you have read any of these books? The E-Myth, there's a great one called The E-Myth Attorney, Built to Sell Traction. So great. These are all books that talk about the importance and value of process. Problem is they don't tell you how to create a process-dependent business. Next question. How many of you in the room have actually tried to create and implement processes in your business? Just give me a raise of hands. How did that go? See, we speak to thousands of business owners every year, and almost everybody tells us that if they've tried to do this, either they know they need to do it or they've tried and they've failed. Employees can't find what they want, and when they go through the effort of trying to find it, they find out that it's outdated. That's not how we do it anymore. Most people come to us because they are in what we call SOP chaos. They have processes, but they're all in different formats. They're in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, videos, 3-ring binders. They're all over the place. They're in Google Docs, they're in Dropbox, they're on people's laptops, they're on the company server. And what ends up happening is it's just this giant mess. And all that time, effort, and money that you put into creating these processes is wasted because they're not used. So here's what we're going to do today. First of all, I want to talk, I'm just going to couple of minutes on who am I, because you need to know who I am so that you can listen to me. This is a topic that I know very well. Secondly, I'm going to talk very briefly on why you need processes to scale. Then I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation, why it's really hard to do this. It's not rocket science, but it's not easy. It's actually quite simple, but there are two things that you're missing, and I'm going to go into that. Then we're going to talk about how to systematize a business. I'm going to actually go into a 5-step plan. This would be a great time to take notes. And then finally, before we get into a question and answer period, I do have a special offer for you. So the first question, who am I? So first of all, I want to tell you that I started a company in 1983, a software company in 1983 in New York City, computerizing art galleries, which was really fun. I was young. I was in my mid-20s. This is back in the days when a hard drive was $5,000. 5 megabyte hard drive was $5,000. So this was early on, and it wasn't a great idea for a business, but I had a lot of fun. I thought I was going to be the next Bill Gates. Problem was, it wasn't quite what I expected. I had trouble finding employees. The employees I did find, they were okay. They did a great job, but everything always came back to me. Everything always depended on me. I was kind of a control freak. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to be everything just as good as I could do it. I wanted everybody to do as well as I could do it. I had unrealistic expectations. Let's put it that way, especially for a company that didn't have any processes. I didn't really know about processes in 1983. I didn't really have any experience working at a large company that had SOPs. Was never in the military. I was working really long hours. I was in New York, so it was easy to work long hours. I could get up and have dinner at 2 in the morning, and it was like 7 o'clock at night. But I was working really long hours, excuse me, sometimes 7 days a week. I was young, but again, as I said, everything depended on me. The buck stopped here. And I owned this company, ran this company for about 10 years. I sold that company in 1993, 1994 for exponentially less than what I thought it was worth. I thought it was worth a lot of money. And a lot of us have this impression that all that sweat equity that we put into our business is sweat equity. And let me tell you, it's not. It's just sweat. It doesn't turn out to be equity. So I had an amazing experience, but it wasn't quite what I had expected it to be. Sold the company 1994-ish, and I started doing a little bit of consulting, mostly sales consulting, a little bit of management consulting. And then I read this book called The E-Myth, and I realized, wow, this is a book that could have helped me a lot. It was something that my consulting clients could use. It was something that was missing, this whole idea of having processes to make it easier to train and manage employees, something that they can fall back to, just made a lot of sense to me. And then Michael Gerber created the whole E-Myth consulting business, and I became an E-Myth consultant, started a company called Business Design Corporation, and that was a consulting company that we delivered the E-Myth Mastery Company for almost 17 years. But what we found was that the E-Myth Mastery program was a lot of theory. It was like a fire hose of theory. And a lot of clients would be in this program for months and months and months, sometimes 3 years, spending tens of thousands of dollars, and at the end of which they wouldn't have processes in place. And we decided that's where we needed to focus. So we started a software company called and created this application called the TouchStone Business System with the intention of making E-Myth theory practical. And we kind of no longer began to coach. We stopped putting ourselves out as business consultants or coaches, and we really just focused on process implementation. Again, trying to make this E-Myth theory very, very tactical, very practical. So creating services, software and services for getting processes implemented, helping business owners create process-dependent business. Our relationship with Pilma started probably 10 years ago. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a long time, and the only reason I say that is because we switched over from Salesforce to Infusionsoft about 10 years ago, and so my record for Ken Hardison is from 10 years ago. Anyway, I know it's at least 10 years because that's how long Ken has been a record in our current CRM system, in our Infusionsoft system. And Ken's law firm prior to that was using TouchStone. They were a TouchStone client, and Ken used our software to systematize his law firm. And many of the processes that Ken wrote for his own law firm ended up forming a series of what we call private systems libraries that Pilma TouchStone clients now have access to. So these are processes that Ken had used to scale his own firms, and we have libraries for personal injury, Social Security, workers' comp, as well as a library of general processes and a library of general law processes. So these are all available to you as a Pilma client using TouchStone. These are processes that you can download and customize and make your own. So the next series of slides, I want to focus on why you need processes. And the first, obviously, scale. Michael Gerber says that 80% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. And the next thing is that if you get through the next 5 years, 80% of those businesses don't survive. So that basically means that 96% of businesses fail to achieve the dream the business owner had when they first started their business. This does not necessarily mean that they're going out of business. It just means that they had an idea of what they wanted their business to be, and it's usually a bigger dream than what they're experiencing. Adding more people, scaling up the business, getting more sales, getting more clients, and growing the business, more employees. It just doesn't happen. They grow, shrink, grow, shrink, grow, shrink. Can't find people, can't get good people. There aren't any good people. There are all sorts of excuses that you hear. But as you grow, you're going to need to hire employees. And when you're just starting out with just a few employees, generally what happens is you don't know how to hire. You don't know how to plan for capacity. You don't know how to plan for growth. So things grow on your passion and your success and your hard work. And all of a sudden you need to hire someone. And so you look around and, a friend of a friend is available. So you hire them and they come into the business, and you have this new person in your business called Joe. And Joe kind of does everything. You do everything. Joe does everything. Everybody's doing everything. One of the things that we say is that if everybody is doing everything, no one is accountable for anything. It's a great quote. If everyone is accountable for everything, no one is accountable for anything. What you need to develop are positions, roles, responsibilities, and you need to find the right people to go in the right seat. So you can't just hire anybody. What you want to do is you want to develop a role and find someone that's a good fit for that role, and then have hiring processes and training processes to get that person up to speed as quickly as possible. Another quote from Brad Smart, who wrote a book called Top Grading: most companies say that they're less than 25% successful at hiring externally. That means that as you're growing, 3 out of every 4 people you hire, they're going to fail. And a lot of times your business doesn't even get to hiring successful people. So as you grow, usually the first couple of hires are okay because they're people you know, and they've got the passion, they build on your passion. But then you start getting employees, and 3 out of 4 employees that you hire are going to fail. So the reason is almost always because there are no processes for hiring, training, managing, etc. Which brings me to the next reason why you want processes, why you want to systematize, so that you have a method for training. One of the things that we say is that most people train with what we call the tribal method of training. And in today's ADD world, it doesn't work. Training by just talking to someone, shadowing someone, it doesn't work. They retain about 18% of what you tell them. Things don't get done consistently. Things don't get done reliably. People start making things up. Brad Smart, who wrote this book on top grading, says that our calculations consistently show that the average cost of a mishire can be 15 times their base salary. Now, when I read this, I kind of choked. I said, no, come on, it can't be. Now, remember, 3 out of 4 hires are mishires, and the average cost of a mishire is 15 times their base salary. So it costs a lot of money to mishire, and you mishire 3 out of 4 times. That's right there is a reason why you want processes. But let's talk about that. And like, again, as I said, I kind of choked when I said 15 times their base salary. So but let's just say it was 3 times their base salary. So let's say you're hiring a paralegal, $40,000, say, and 3 times 40,000 is $120,000. And you might say, well, come on, how can it really cost that much? Well, first of all, there is the expense of recruiting, the time and the expense of recruiting. There is the time and the expense of training. There is the cost of lost opportunity. Let's say that you expect someone to get 4 agreements for every 6 intakes. You get 6 intakes, you get 4 agreements. And let's say that the average fee for a case is, let's say it's $15,000. So that means that every month you are getting 6 intakes, 4 of them turn into fee agreements. That's 4 times 15, that's $60,000 a month. And let's just say you have an intake specialist, or that's what you can do every week or every month. So things are getting busy, so you hire a new intake specialist, and they start failing. They don't close 4 out of 6, they close 2 out of 6. Well, 2 times 15 is $30,000. Your expectation is 60. They're actually losing $30,000 a month. And you might say, oh, that's a huge cost. That's the cost of lost opportunity. You're losing $30,000 a month. It's costing you $30,000 a month. That's $360,000 a year. Then there are also the costs of the mistakes they make, the cost to your reputation if they do something wrong, the cost of frustrations and interruptions. A client comes in for their settlement check and the paralegal hands it over, not noticing that there's still tens of thousands of dollars of medical bills outstanding. And that the client leaves, the paralegal mistakenly gives the entire check to the client walks out the door. The hassle, the time, and the damaged reputation of the upset client, trying to get that check back, cut out all those medical expenses and giving it back to them because you didn't have a process for closing the file. Or worse yet, you end up paying for all those medical bills. So training is critical. Managing. Once someone has been trained, they shouldn't have to bother you about how to do it. If you have documented processes, they can go back to the process and it gets rid of that whole got a minute call. But what's more important, look at this. There was a study done by the United States Department of Labor. 64% of employees surveyed reported that they left their jobs because they didn't feel appreciated or valued. They didn't feel appreciated or valued. I don't think that business owners don't appreciate or value their employees. The problem is they don't have a process, a management process, a space, a time, a meeting where they can appreciate people. It's just not on their radar. They think about it, but then it goes off the radar as quickly as it came on the radar. 23%, there was a study done at the Haas School of Business, 23% more productive when employees felt recognized, 43% more productive when they felt appreciated. That means that you could achieve a 43% bump in productivity and increase your employee retention by more than 60% by implementing a simple series of management processes. And we have, most managers, they don't know how to manage. I walk around. That's not management. We have some great management processes in the library that I mentioned earlier. Manager meeting process, employee complaint process, management philosophy, key frustration processes. These are all available to you to download, customize, and implement so you can create a space for you to address recognition, appreciation, value, as well as a specific time for mentoring and dealing with cases and project issues. Compliance, well, obviously, there are fines and damages and legal penalties, getting your license revoked, that might put you out of business. The damage to your reputation, loss of trust among your prospects, your clients, your peers, maybe the other attorneys that give you workers' comp cases, those strategic alliances, or maybe just increased regulatory scrutiny. It's just such a hassle when you're under the microscope all the time. I think most importantly, work-life balance. This was kind of interesting when I did a little bit of research on this. 35% of small business owners, and I believe this is being very conservative. 35% of small business owners report taking only 2 or fewer weeks of vacation per year. 37% reported taking no vacation time at all. 62% of small business owners reported working on weekends. 51% reported working at least 5 to 7 days a week. 61% of small business owners reported feeling burned out, at least occasionally. And then this last one, 32% of small business owners reported that running their business had a negative impact on their relationship. Not only with their spouse, but also with their children. So you do not have to be accountable for everything that happens in business. You need to do what you love doing and what you should be doing. And you need to delegate the rest. And there's a key concept here, abdication versus delegation. If you list a whole bunch of things that you don't want to do, and you just tell someone else to do it, you haven't really delegated that. You've abdicated the responsibility. So what you want to do is you want to write a process for that and then delegate that process, train someone else how to do that process. You did not start a law firm so you could be burned out, work on weekends, rarely take a vacation, lose your partner, never see your kids. The only reason, Michael Gerber said this, the only reason to have a business is to get more of what you want from life. Well, what is that? Well, when we talk to business owners, they typically say, well, the reason they want a business, the reason they started a business, the idea they have for the future is that either they get to love doing what they love doing in their business, and everything that they don't love doing is being taken care of really well by other people. So that's one characteristic of what I like to call business freedom, doing what you love without having to do all the things that you don't like to do. Second type of people we hear, I like to characterize it as calling in for the numbers from the British Virgin Islands. As your business grows and moves from adolescence into maturity, and you can actually, you don't even have to be at work anymore. We have a colleague, Scott Fritz, who wrote a book, The 40-Hour Work Year. Basically, he comes in to work for 2 days a year to do strategic planning, and then 1 day every quarter to do strategic planning for each quarter to track how well they're doing on their objectives. So do what you love to do, calling in for the numbers, or 3, selling your business for what you think it's worth. You will never get what you think it's worth if your business depends on you, because who would want that job? If the business depends on you, if you're working 7 days a week, if you're working long hours every day, if you don't have time for vacation, who wants that job? Nobody wants that job. Or if they do want your business, they're getting it so that they don't have to have that job. So you will never get paid for what you think you're worth. If you have a process dependent business where you're calling in for the numbers, that business is worth a lot of money. Okay. So why is it so hard? Everybody knows this. Why is it so hard? Well, one of the things we hear all the time is, I'm too busy. I don't have time to systematize my business. Well, I will tell you that if you think you're too busy, it's because you don't know the value of having processes. It really doesn't take a lot of time. If you gave this 1 hour a week, then you could gradually, it's a gradual process. You could gradually create a process dependent business. And over the years, you would gradually get to this place where you could be calling in for the numbers. I would say that the reason you're saying you're too busy is that you're not aware of the cost to your life and to your business and to your success. And it's almost always because a business owner doesn't know how to systematize. They don't know how to write a process. They don't know how to get their processes organized. If they try it, their processes get all over the place in different formats, and it feels like a huge waste of time. And their people aren't following processes, so they don't know how to get their people to follow processes. The key is, well, it's kind of like limited resources. You don't have a plan and you don't have a tool. You cannot use tools like Microsoft Word or SharePoint or Google Docs to systematize your business. These are document sharing tools. Yes, great. But they're not processes. They're not tools that are designed for implementing processes. And also, owners think that they have to write all the processes themselves. That is not true. You can get your people, you enroll your people to help you write the processes. A lot of times you get resistance to change, a lack of buy-in from employees. Business owners say that their people won't want to follow processes, but that's usually because following processes is a hassle. You can't find what they want when they need it, and when they find it, it's outdated. Or they say you're micromanaging. And that's not what processes are here for. Processes are here to train people. Processes are here to help them make their lives easier, make work easier. But what ends up happening is you get all these processes. They're in all different places. They're in Google Docs, Dropbox, the firm server. They're in employees' computers. They're in PDF files. They're all over the place. Processes need to be easy to find, easy to follow, and they need to be current. Employees need to understand the value of having processes. You need to put your feet in their shoes and say, what's in it for me? It's not about micromanaging. It makes it easier for them to do their job. They don't have to reinvent the wheel when they've forgotten how to do something because they only do it once a month or once a quarter. It gets them up to speed quicker. It's clarity of expectations and how to achieve those expectations. So you need a plan and you need a tool. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. I want to talk about how to systematize. I'm going to walk you through a 5-step plan on how to systematize your law firm. I'm not going to have time to talk about the tool or to demonstrate the tool. The tool is called the TouchStone Business System. This is software that is designed for process implementation. And I was told that there wouldn't be internet up here, so I can't really demo TouchStone. It's a web-based application. But if you have connected with some of the things that I'm sharing with you today, some of the things I'm saying up here, you do have a chance to get a free trial of the TouchStone software. I'll share with you how to do that in a few minutes at the end of today's presentation. So why is it so hard to systematize? Well, first of all, as I said, you don't have a plan, you don't have a tool. So I'm going to walk you through this 5-step plan. Step number 1 in the plan is you've got to have a vision. A lot of people come to us and say, what's a vision got to do with systematizing? Your vision is you're going to actually use your vision in multiple processes in your business. You're going to use it for hiring people. You're going to use it for onboarding people. You're going to use it for people holding people accountable. You're going to get everybody on the same page, gunning towards the same goal. There was a study that said that if you set goals, if you have a vision, you set goals and you measure your progress towards that vision, you have a 300% better chance of achieving it. It's common sense, right? If your vision is in your head, if you're not really sharing your vision, if you're not measuring your progress towards your vision, you just don't have much of a chance of achieving it. It just lives up here all day and you just go to work every day. Go to work, doing it, as Michael Gerber says. So your vision is made up of 3 key elements. Your mission, which is your big, hairy, audacious goal. your purpose, which is why you started the business, and your core values. What is sacred to you of how things go on in your business? And as I said, these tools will be used to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Everybody wants to go where you want to take them. Everybody abides by the same values. So there's consistency in the organization, and there's a consistent passion in your organization. So mission, purpose, and values. You write it down, and then you make it part of your onboarding process, your management processes, your training processes. People know everybody's gunning towards the same place. We're all going to the same destination. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take that vision, which you wrote down, and you're going to create an organizational structure of that future vision, of that future business. Your org chart is not just a pretty picture. It's actually a dynamic tool that you're going to use to strategically grow your business. Who to hire next, what are their responsibilities, what to expect of them, how to achieve those expectations. So you actually create an organizational structure of that future business. This is actually a screenshot from the TouchStone software. Very simple to create an organizational chart. We give you a sort of a template, a layout, but you can move these boxes around. You can click on any of those little 3 dots in the bottom right corner of all those boxes, and you can add, remove, change. But this is a representation, a blueprint of your future business in terms of its positions. And by the way, by clicking on any one of these positions, you get a complete set of processes that'll be used to train someone hired for that position and hold them accountable to. And by clicking on any one of the processes within that box, you get a complete set of instructions on how to do what needs to be done. So it's very easy to find what you need when you need it, any employee. So you've got your vision, you've got the org chart of that future vision. The next step is to identify or name your processes. Now, in this step, I am not saying you write all of your processes. In this step, I am just saying you identify them. Now, if I was to ask you, what are all the processes in your business? You would probably look at me like a deer in the headlights. You would kind of look at me and say, I don't know. But what I would say is that you can take your business and you can break it down into 4 key functions. There are only 4 key functions in your firm. There are only 4 key functions in my business. There's only 4 key functions in any business out there. First key function is get the business. You got to get the business. These are all of your sales and marketing processes. The second is doing the business. These are all the processes for client fulfillment, customer service, basically all of the processes that you do directly for your clients in fulfilling the promise that you made in the sales process. Then there is running the business. These are all the back office operational procedures for finance, admin, HR, IT. And then there are processes for guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get to, the strategic processes, the management processes. There are only 4 key functions. So when you want to start defining the processes, instead of me asking you what are all the processes in your business, I would say, let's start with sales. How do you get new business? You think about that and you say, well, we do billboard advertising. We do radio advertising. We advertise in magazines. We have pay-per-click on Google. We do testimonials. We have strategic relationships with other attorneys who don't do this type of work. Great. You just gave me 5 separate processes. Then I might ask you, okay, great. You get a new PNC, a new potential new client from, say, Google AdWords or a billboard. Someone calls in. Now what do you do? Well, we make a quick qualification call. Then if they're qualified, they do intake. And then we sign the fee agreement. Great, you just gave me 3 more processes. And then you go on to doing, and then you go on to running, and then you go on to guiding. So you just walk your way through these 4 key functions, identifying all of the processes in each of these key functions. And as I said, we have a whole list of processes that you can choose from to help you think about what you might not have thought of. Essentially, what you're doing here is you are creating a table of contents of a complete operating manual for your business. You're also creating a blueprint of your business in terms of its processes. So we created a blueprint of your business in terms of its positions, and now you're creating a blueprint of your business in terms of its processes. Okay, vision, org chart, process identification. The 4th step is linking. You've got all these roles, these boxes on your org chart. In step number 4, you're going to link all of these processes to those boxes. And sometimes processes go to more than one box. And you're going to add in all of your employees and link them to those boxes. In the linking of processes to roles or boxes on your organizational chart, you are automatically, at least in TouchStone, you are automatically creating position-specific operating manuals for every box or every position in your organization. And this is going to lead to process dependency. Remember what I said earlier, you got to get the right people in the right seat. I didn't make that up. That was Jim Collins who wrote that. When you're hiring people, you now have clearly defined roles. This is what you're going to be doing. And with all of those processes, you can begin to see what are the responsibilities, what are the skill sets that I need in someone who's going to do this well. And I will tell you that not everybody is the same as you. You have certain skills and responsibilities and beliefs, and there are a lot of things that you don't like doing. This does not necessarily mean that nobody in the world doesn't like doing what you don't like doing. There are actually people out there who like doing what you don't like doing. You've just got to find them. Don't put someone like you into a position of a bunch of stuff that you don't like doing, because they're not going to like doing it either. And then they're going to quit. And that's why 3 out of 4 hires are mishired. So now you have a list of all the processes that are going to be used to train this new person so you can get them up to speed as quickly as possible. You have an understanding of the skills required to be able to do that job well. And when you start linking your employees to these boxes, by the way, this is an opportunity for you to see in your business where maybe you have a role that doesn't fit the person that's in it. And you can start creating some adjustments there. So can you see how these elements, all these different elements, come into play when you're thinking about creating a process-dependent business? Creating a process-dependent business is not just about writing mountains of documents. It's the integration of your people, your processes, and your positions. People, processes, and positions. It's about making sure that what you create, what you write, is available to the right people when they need it, that they're current, that they're easy to find, that employees understand their responsibilities and expectations and how to achieve those expectations. So now you have your vision, your org chart, you've got your processes all identified, everything's linked up. At this point, you've got what we like to call a foundation for your process-dependent business. And this is very much a project, by the way. This really shouldn't take more than about 8 to 10 hours to do, somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. This is not a long-term project. You can create the foundation for your process-dependent business. The last step, the 5th step, is getting these processes written, because up until the linking, you don't have any processes written. You might have a bunch of processes downloaded from our libraries, but they need to be reviewed and customized. So the next step, train writing processes, is an ongoing process. This is going to be happening for as long as you own the business. The challenge here is that if you've gone through process identification, you might have 100 processes. One time I did this with a client, they had 1,100 processes. And this is typically where the business owner puts their head in their hands and goes, how am I ever going to do this? So you want to think about prioritizing the writing of processes. What are the most important processes that need to get written as soon as possible? Now, please notice that I did not say what are the most important processes. I said, what are the most important processes to get written? And there are typically 3 ways that you can prioritize the writing of processes. One is there someone that you're about to need to hire? Let's say you have a receptionist who's going on maternity leave in a few months. Well, the processes that the receptionist does are not super high priority processes. They do banking, they answer the phone, they do filing, office organization. Those are not really high priority processes, but because she's going on maternity leave, they are high priority processes to get written. And that's because you want to bring someone in on a temporary basis and get them up to speed as quickly as possible. So many people, their receptionist leaves and they don't know what the receptionist did or how they did what they did. So it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's really difficult to go through that transition. If you've got the processes in place, it makes it that much easier. So one way of prioritizing the writing of processes is to think about who you're about to hire. Is there anybody that you have to hire, replace, do anything like that? The second is there any area in your business? Maybe it's intakes, maybe it's something else. It's customer service. Maybe it's marketing. Is there any area of the business that needs support? That could be like one of those 4 key functions. Is there any area that needs support? There may be some processes in there to focus on. The third area of interest of prioritizing is, what is it that you do? What are the processes that you should not be doing? Because almost always when we speak to a firm owner, the lead attorney, the lead partner, any business owner, they're doing a bunch of stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And they only do it because, well, it'll take me so long to tell someone else how to do it, I might as well do it myself. If you ever hear yourself saying, these are processes that should be written up and delegated to somebody else who should be doing it. And also, coming back to why you started a firm in the first place, you should be doing the things you love. So make a list of the things that you don't love doing and make a list of the things that you shouldn't be doing. And these are going to be the high priority processes that you'll get written. So it kind of depends on where you're at. What you'll do is you'll write the process, you will train the process, you will monitor its success to make sure it's working, and then you will repeat. Your focus is typically on 8 to 12 processes at a time. And then once you've got those 8 to 12 processes implemented, you can then reprioritize, get another set of 8 to 10 processes. So if you're looking at your business and going, how am I ever going to get these 500 processes written? I don't say go there. Don't think like that. If I tell you, hey, you've only got 8 processes to get written, you can go, oh, I can get that. So which leads me to the next slide on how to write a process. Let me say that to the extent that you write more and more content when you're writing process is to the extent that nobody's going to read that process. Nobody's going to follow that process. If you're spending hours of time trying to think of every single possible scenario, first of all, you're going to be a bottleneck. You're going to make process writing miserable, and nobody's going to read it anyway. So think of writing processes like this. First of all, broad strokes. Take 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, and just go do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. Just write those up, those very simple broad strokes. Because when you train, and I like to call this, by the way, the 30,000 foot view, because when you train someone, you're going to be talking to them. You're going to be explaining those special scenarios. So you've got the broad strokes, and then when you're training someone, you're filling in the backstory, the details, the examples. And sometimes when you're doing training, you have a situation where somebody says, wait, Mike, how did you get from this step to that step? And you realize that, well, you know the process so well that you missed that. It was an assumption that everybody knows that, but they don't. So sometimes in the training process, you have to innovate the process or add to the process. But don't do that at the beginning. Do that later, because sometimes the broad strokes is all they need. But then someone says, no, I don't get it. And so you can edit the process, maybe take another 10 or 15 minutes to make a couple of adjustments in the process. Then you want to monitor the process, what I like to call boots on the ground. Don't just assume they got it. Don't just assume that there weren't any questions. Just check in on them. And sometimes the monitoring is done through software, but sometimes the monitoring is just listening and watching and asking. And this is where you might have to make a few other adjustments, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes to writing the process and making sure it's right. Because if someone's not achieving the expectations you have of them, they're either not following the process, or the process isn't working, or they've misunderstood the process. In which case, you just got to work with them to make sure that they understand the process. And so maybe another 10 or 15 minutes working on tweaking the process at the monitoring stage. So you can see here that a process shouldn't take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour at most. It doesn't take a lot of time to write a process. Now, how many of you have seen already a bunch of presentations about ChatGPT using artificial intelligence to write processes? This is a great tool that can help you get your business to be process, your firm to be process dependent. You can use ChatGPT to assist you. Let's say that you're in need of a new intake specialist, and it's kind of a new position, or maybe you don't have a current job description. You can actually go to ChatGPT and ask, write me a job description for a workers' compensation intake specialist. And if you do that, this is what you might get. I actually went into ChatGPT and put that in. Give me a job description for a workers' comp intake specialist. And yes, it's going to be quite general in its scope, but it's quite accurate. You get a great summary here, what we like to call the objective of the position, and then it starts listing key responsibilities. These are basically processes. review and gather information from clients, including medical records, incident reports, enter clients into our our case management system. You can even ask GPT, for example, to write you a work plan for how to add client information into file buying, lead docket, or needles, and it will provide you with a super accurate step-by-step work plan. But it is so much easier to edit something that has already been written than to think up something from scratch, customizing your own version. So now you've got a pretty good list of responsibilities and qualifications or skill sets. Now you can literally take this document and use it to post a job hiring ad in ZipRecruiter or Indeed.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever your favorite recruiting tool, you can take that document and hire from it. You can also start creating processes. So you've got this fairly good list of responsibilities for someone hired for this position. And as I said a moment ago, in many cases, responsibilities can be restated as processes. So for example, the responsibility on the job description in ChatGPT was to gather all the necessary information from clients, including medical records, incident reports, and other relevant information. So I took that responsibility and I asked ChatGPT to write me a step-by-step plan. See this, right? Step-by-step plan for gathering all necessary documentation from clients, including medical. So, and this is what it created for me. So I just copied that responsibility from the job description that was created for me. And I opened up another text box and said, write me a step-by-step plan for gathering the necessary information. And it's quite remarkable what got generated. Now, again, this is not a silver bullet. ChatGPT is not going to be able to systemize your business, but this was pretty amazing. Explain the process to the client with a little bit of information around that, request the necessary documentation. Now, again, you would get this, paste it in and customize it. So what are the documents that you need to request? List them here so that someone has them. How do you verify documents? How do you keep the client informed? There'll be some tools that you'll want to, there'll be some text that you'll want to add in here and make it your own. But it's a great place to start. And it, again, as I've said it a couple of times, it's so much easier to create something that is already written than to create something that you have to start from scratch. Now, I mentioned at the start of my presentation that to create a process-dependent business really helps to have a tool. And that tool is what we call TouchStone. By trying to do this in some document sharing application like Word or PowerPoint, trying to organize your content in SharePoint, it's just going to cause SOP chaos. So the tool that we've got is called TouchStone. And again, I'm not going to go into a demo, but for those of you who are serious about finding your business freedom, you can reach out to me. I'll do a personal one-on-one demo. And again, we have a special PILMA conference offer that I'll share with you in a moment. But I created a quick video of how you might take content generated by ChatGPT, or for that matter, any process that you currently have documented, and cut and paste them into the TouchStone system so that you can make it easier to find those processes. So first of all, I'm going to log into it. In this instance, I log into a TouchStone account. And I'm going to go over to the organization chart, and I'm going to click on the intake specialist position. When I click on the intake specialist position, I get a complete list of all of the processes that someone in that position would be held accountable to, or these are the processes that I would use to train someone in this position. This is the complete list of processes. This is what I like to call the internal job description. Now here you'll see that gathering documentation process that I got from, I just cut and pasted it from ChatGPT. And when you click on the process, all of the steps, the step-by-steps for all of those steps are listed. So in a matter of minutes, I've got the basis for a process that I can tweak and implement. So the gathering of documentation happens consistently, reliably, each and every time. And I mentioned this earlier, make it even easier and quicker, there's a whole set of processes that you can download from and customize for your business. These are processes that Ken used to manage and run his law firms. Ken makes them available to you if you're a PILMA member. Okay, so wrapping up, we speak to thousands of entrepreneurs every year. Most of them, they know they need to get their processes implemented. They know they need to create a process-dependent business. And as I said, I've said this before, you got to get the right people in the right seats. And to be able to get the right people in the right seats, you need to be very clear on the responsibilities for each of those seats, the roles or positions on your org chart, as well as how to achieve those expectations that you have of each employee in those roles. In your organization, every employee, including you, must be doing what they need and want to be doing. The problem is how? How do you make this happen? And the biggest challenge is that you don't have a plan and you don't have a tool, and that's what we have for you. Dan Sullivan, maybe a lot of you know who Dan is. Dan is the strategic coach, very well-known executive coach. A couple things Dan says: whenever you imagine a bigger and better future, there's a problem. You don't currently know how to achieve the goal because it's bigger and better than your current situation. Great saying. Second thing he said, procrastination is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when you really want something more for yourself, but you lack the knowledge and capability to do it. Think about those two things. I mean, I hope today that I've impressed upon you that for you to scale, if you want to build a business that's bigger than you, that doesn't overwhelm you, that is valuable and saleable, one that you won't just close when you're tired, you're going to need processes. And I hope that the plan that I've shared with you kind of makes sense. It's not rocket science. It's actually quite simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you follow our plan, one that we've created from really more than 25 years of helping business owners just like you get their firms to be process dependent. And if you use a tool like TouchStone to help you make it happen, you now know how to create that bigger and better future. You now have the knowledge and the capability to do it. Okay, last, closing. Special offer. I mentioned at the beginning that we have a PILMA offer. So as a conference special, you can get a 30-day free trial of TouchStone. We will offer 4 hours of one-on-one account setup. We're going to help you create your org chart. And if you don't have one, we'll help you build one. We'll help you download processes from the different libraries. And again, if you're a PILMA member, you'll have access to all of Ken's libraries. We'll help you link up all of your processes to your org chart. And we'll help you add all of your employees and link them to roles on your org chart to create position-specific operating manuals. And we'll help you create all of your user accounts and control panels for your employees. And we have you'll get a private link to a mastermind meeting for law firms hosted by our very own Shannon Brody, who is the head of our support. She's an absolutely brilliant person. You can drop in on these meetings at any time and ask any questions about how to get your firm to be process dependent. If you want to take advantage of this special offer, you get your phones out, text PILMA to 470-619-5602. If you do that, you should get a prompt requesting your email address to get your free trial account created. What's your email address? We need the email address to be able to build your free account of the TouchStone Business System. So type in your email address. When you hit send, you should see a thank you message that says, hey, we're building your account. Click back. There's also a link here. Click that link and schedule your first account setup meeting. It's going to take you to a short video of me where there's a button on that video where you can schedule your first one-on-one meeting. By the way, if you don't see this sequence happening on your phone, just try it again. Start again with PILMA to that phone number. When I was testing this, there was one time when the message said it was sent, but it wasn't delivered. Okay, so let's just move into question and answers. By the way, if you need to leave, you don't have time for Q&As, there's a brochure that I have right up here at the front of the room that kind of walks through this whole process. It's some information about how important it is to have business processes. Has our information on the back if you want to get in touch with us.